Hello, here in front of me is a Surface Pro on the left, 2017, and on the right is a Galaxy Book Flex. I have decided to move on now from the Surface Pros and move on to a Galaxy Flex. The main reason for me moving from a Surface Pro is the pen performance. All the other things are nice to have, they're little improvements, but with the Surface Pro I could live with all that. But for quite a while now I've been fighting with the pen. I've been really fighting with it to trying to get it to work the way I want it to. The way that I feel that Wacom pens work, with a really good initial activation force, a nice smooth line, makes me feel as if I have control in what I'm actually doing. But I've never managed to get that on the Surface Pro. But now I have the Flex, which uses Wacom technology with its S Pen. I can now directly compare the performance between one and the other. So this is what I shall now show you. So what I think I'll do first is I will clear the layer and I will put it on the oil brush because that's the thing that I use the most, and I'll set it to default settings, and let's put it to 100% in tool size. Let's see about that, and then let's do something similar on the Flex. Let's go back to the oil brush on the Flex and we shall select default settings and we shall set that to 100%. And let's see what we have. The test I'm going to do now is going to be a very light test. It's typically the way I'm not one of these artists that presses hard on their devices. I like to just almost have the paint, in quotes, touch the canvas and to a nice light touch basically, and a nice initial activation force. And this is kind of why I liked this slim pen. So although it's using the same technology as the older pen, I suspect it's due to the nib makes it feel as if it's got a better initial activation force, and I just prefer the feel of it generally. Okay, here we go. So we've got it set to black. We've got everything set up as 100. Let's just see what happens with just an initial. So I'm just lightly touching. It will break up a little bit, which is fine because I'm just lightly touching, so I'm not too bothered about that. But I can feel that the initial activation force is pretty good, which is why I like it. And I'm just doing it smoothly. No, a real light touch, just going along. And actually the diagonal lines, okay, I was doing it moderately quickly there, but the diagonal lines have vastly improved in the N-Trig technology on Surface Pro, so I don't really have too much of an issue with that. The issue I mainly have is just the way the pressure curve works, and it does on the Surface Pro, it seems to blow out a little bit more, and on certain devices, not the 2017 device, it has this weird staircasing issue with pressure, which is really annoying for an artist. So that's, there's a possibility that may be okay, especially with the type of art that I do, which is very much more organic, very much more like natural media. With a paintbrush, sometimes the paint will come out a little bit thicker or a little bit thinner at times when you apply it. But it doesn't feel right when I'm using it. It really doesn't. So anyway, let's go over to the Flex and let's try something similar. Again, I'm not going to be applying too much pressure on it. There we go, virtually no pressure, and just kind of, nothing whatsoever. As much as I can, a very similar pressure if I can do. And as you can see, now I'm trying to do this as a true test. The actual pressure response from it is very much more even, and what I would naturally want to get. If you compare that to the kind of the bobbly lines of this, you can see where the difference actually lies. And this is only light single line pressure. Now, if I really start to push this, for example, if I really want to do something a bit more extravagant, for example, if I change the tool size to 300 and give that a go. So I'm going to apply a bit more pressure now as the, in the normal way that I would paint. And as you can see, now that is pretty horrible regarding the pressure curve response. That's not great. And now if we do it over here, if we go up and we set the size to 300, oh, there we go, size 300. And now we do something similar. Let's see what we get with this. No, it's much better. It's a much better pressure response. It's much better. It's much more natural. You can see that. That's just all really kind of bobbly. And you don't have quite as much control, but that's just coming out really nicely. So that really is the main reason why I've decided to switch to the new Galaxy Book Flex. Now, the negative sides of the new pen and the way it all works, of course, is this will be Wacom technology. So as far as I'm aware, it's EMR technology, and therefore the palm rejection won't be quite as good as the N-Trig. And as far as I'm aware, that was the main reason that Microsoft chose the N-Trig technology for the palm rejection. And to be honest, with the Surface Pro, I have had no issue when I've been doing my art regarding palm rejection. I haven't had to use a glove or anything like that. And I have noticed on the Flex every now and again there is a dot that appears when the palm touches. But of course you can do things about that. You can either wear an artist glove, or sometimes, as I do, because I don't really use the actual touch when I'm doing art, I use like a keyboard or an external device to be able to set up everything. Then I just disable the touch screen for when I'm doing art, so that clears all that stuff up. So there we go. That is the main reason for me deciding to switch to a Flex, is based upon the pen performance. There's a whole load of other little small improvements, but the pen is the most important aspect for me, being a digital artist.